In this video, we're gonna talk about the silent killer of most martial arts schools. It's not getting more leads, it's not getting more appointments, it's not even getting more students, it's keeping your students for longer. You see, majority of the industry just focuses on the front end of their businesses, and don't get me wrong, we all need more students to sign up at our schools. But if we don't close the back door, our schools don't grow. This business model is very simple. All we need to grow our schools and make more money is acquiring more students than we lose every single month. But if you're losing too many students, it becomes really tough to grow. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. I'm gonna go over the top things our clients are doing to keep very low churn rates. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term churn rate is basically the percentage of your entire student base that quits on a monthly basis. So for example, let's say you have 100 active students and 5 quit every month, you have a 5% churn rate. Now in our industry, an average churn rate is probably 4 to 5%, but you think about that, 4 to 5% of your students quitting every single month ends up being a lot over time. At 200 students, a 5% churn rate is 10 per month. At 300, it's 15 per month. At 400, it's 20 per month. Trying to scale up from there gets really tough when you're losing 20 students a month. Think about that for a second. You need to get 20 students a month just to maintain your active student count. Whereas our best performing clients, they have churn rates between 2 to 3%. So our client like Andrew from All Star Martial Arts, out of 500 plus students, he's losing a very small amount relatively each month so he can continue to grow his school. So again, today I'm gonna break down the exact things that Andrew, as well as all of our other clients are doing to make sure that they keep their students for as long as possible. So first, we have to touch on, why do students typically quit? Well, there's two main reasons why students quit. And I actually learned this from Terry Lee. She owns a school in Silicon Valley. I forget the name of it. I believe she has about 800 students and has done it purely on word of mouth and referral. And I was very impressed by her retention system. And what she said, or the main two reasons that students typically quit, is number one, attendance. They haven't been to class in a while. That's a sign that, okay, we're gonna get that dreaded email soon. And number two, rankings. They're falling behind in terms of getting their next stripes and testing for their next belt level. So one thing one of our clients, Andrew, started doing at his school was proactive retention versus reactive retention. What I mean by proactive retention is, again, instead of waiting for that dreaded email, I want to pause, or Johnny's lost interest, or we're gonna try out a different sport, you want to spot those signs ahead of time that, okay, if things continue in this direction, that person's gonna quit soon, and be proactive. Start doing things to prevent that from happening. For example, one thing that Andrew does, and a lot of our clients do, they run reports every single week in their membership CRMs. So they'll run a report for attendance, basically seeing who hasn't been to class in over a week. And then they also run another report for people who are falling behind in terms of ranking up. So for example, if they know from belt level 1 to 2, it takes 2 months, and there's been a kid on that belt for 3 or 4 months, obviously those kids will come up in the report. And then what they do is they have an instructor come in, usually 30 minutes to an hour early every day. They'll have all the lists on them, and they'll reach out to every single family on the list with a phone call if they don't answer, a text message, pretty much every day. Andrew does it every day. Some people do it every couple days, but they continue to reach out to them to see, what's going on, get them back into class. And if their child is struggling, and this is a really cool thing, what they do is offer what's called a CPL, a complimentary private lesson. So on Saturdays, they open up a few hours for CPLs, and each complimentary private lesson is about 20 minutes. You can imagine, let's say a kid's been falling behind, they haven't been able to get to their next belt level, and in classes, maybe they're starting to get disheartened, right? Because especially for a kid, 3-4 months is a long time. And then they do a one-on-one private lesson with an instructor, right? Imagine what that will do for their motivation, right? They're gonna be more excited again. They probably have got some stripes, or now are closer to getting to that next belt rank, doing that one-on-one session. And now the chances of them quitting in the future is way lower. So basically, you run those reports every week, you reach out to everyone via phone call, text message, and you continue to follow up with them, whatever cadence you guys are most comfortable with, but I'd recommend every couple days until they answer. For people who are just situations like, oh, my kid's been sick, or we've been on vacation, I mean, obviously you don't need to offer the complimentary private lesson, but for people in situations where their kids are getting disheartened or they're falling falling behind or whatever it may be, can offer these complimentary private lessons. And look, for you guys, I mean, sure, you're not charging for them, but let's say an instructor costs you like 20, 30 bucks per hour and you're doing it 3 hours every Saturday. I mean, what, it's like 60, 90 bucks every week. You're getting anywhere from 6 to 9 different private lessons with students. So imagine over the course of a month or year, all those different private lessons over time, how much more value you will provide your students with, how much more you will improve your retention. So that's the number one thing you guys can implement right away that we see decreases your churn rates. The next thing you want to do is track the reasons for people canceling in a spreadsheet. You can have a spreadsheet in like Google Sheets or something where you track of course, the parent's name, child's name. You track how much they were paying, what their membership type was. You track when they started, when they quit, what belt rank they were when they quit, and then the reason for cancellation. And what you can do over time is map out trends, right? Maybe you find that majority of students are quitting once they get to green belt. You know, instead of just wondering, oh, like, you know, what do we do to improve retention? Now, again, as a business owner, you always point the fingers back at yourself and say, okay, what can I do better? If you notice there's a specific belt level or maybe a specific duration, maybe it's 3 or 4 months in where most students quit, well, you can now work on solving it. So maybe, you know, in terms of rankings, right? That's a big reason students quit. Maybe you find, oh, like going from belt level 1 to 2, it's taking weight, or even to get their first stripe, because, you know, in martial arts like jiu-jitsu, they're not going to get their first belt that quickly. It's taking way too long. So how can I adjust my curriculum to make sure they're progressing faster in those first 3 to 6 months where a majority of students typically quit? And then you put a lot of work into redoing your curriculum and making it more exciting and getting those students those faster milestones. And then you watch it over a couple months and see how it improves your retention. Tracking all of that data will show you where you need to improve your curriculum, and it'll give you insights as to what specific area of your business you need to focus on in order to improve your retention. The next thing that you want to make sure you're doing is consistent staff trainings. So your team is everything in your business, especially if your goal is not only to, you know, let's say scale past $100,000 per month eventually, but win back your time. You see, the most beautiful thing about money and building a great business is the freedom that comes along with it. And I'm sure for you, it would be amazing for you to be in a position one day where you can pick and choose what classes you want to teach instead of having to, you know, be at the school for specific hours, right? You created this business to work for you. And that's where your staff comes in. The number one thing that you can do with your staff is just consistently having an open loop of communication with them. A lot of school owners who I talk to, they'll have meetings maybe once a month with their staff, and I'm like, guys, that's not enough. So much can happen in a span of a month. You need to be talking to them way more frequently than that. And not just talking to them, but you need to put time into consistently training them to be better and better. If you have a staff member, you know, if you're seeing a trend where your staff members aren't up to par as to where you want them to be, again, you can't point the fingers at them. You have to point the fingers back at yourself and be like, hey, I'm not a good enough leader right now. What can I do to be a better leader? Or how can I train them better? Or how can I improve the systems in the business to empower them to do better? But you always have to point the fingers back at yourself. So the first thing I'd advise doing with your staff members, have a weekly meeting with your entire team where you talk about where the business is at right now. Let's say your monthly revenue, what your next goal is. So, hey, like we're at 20K a month by the end of Q2. You know, we want to hit 25K. We need this many students a month. In order to do that, we need to make sure no more than this many students quit a month. We're finding right now most students are quitting here, so we're going to be working on this. So this instructor, I want to assign you to do this. This person, I want you to start doing their complimentary private lessons, blah, blah, blah. Money loves speed. So when you're talking to people consistently every single week and even every day you're having some sort of communication with your instructors, you guys are going to move forward a lot faster. The other thing that you can do that I've personally had a lot of great results with, as well as people I've told who've implemented this, is scheduling a bi-weekly one-on-one meeting with every single team member. Now, it doesn't have to be long. You can do it for just 15 minutes, for example, but as business owners, sometimes it goes a lot further than us just specifically talking about work. Sometimes, and what I find sometimes is you're almost like a therapist to team members sometimes, because let's say someone's going through something in their external life that can directly affect their work if it's not handled. right? So what I do is every 2 weeks, I'll do that one-on-one meeting with each staff member. For me, I like to do, like, I'll grab a coffee and I just go on a drive with each person. You can go to a coffee shop or, I don't know, just talk on the mats, whatever you're most comfortable with. But the first thing I ask them is, hey, so how are you feeling about things? Like, how's life going and blah, 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 just to get them to open up a little bit. And then from there, I'll highlight what they're doing well. Like, hey, I noticed you did this week. You're providing a lot of value here. So I just want to say thank you for that. I really appreciate that and actually helping us so much here. And then I'll tell them what I want them to do or what they need to do in order to reach the next level. So I'll be like, all right, like you're, for example, a junior instructor right now. For you to get to that, senior instructor position, the things I'm looking to see for you is like, making sure you're doing X amount of trainings each week so you can continue to progress and you're a good example for all of the students. I need to see you attend these different training seminars. I want to see you doing this in classes. And man, if you can stay consistent with these things for a month, like you can easily be at a senior instructor level in no time, right? So it's almost like a correct praise, but you're not just saying, oh, I want you to do this better. You're saying, hey, this is what I want to see next from you, and if you do this, it's going to help you get to that next level. And you also want to align the company goals with their personal goals, right? So let's say they're making like 40K a year salary and their next goal is 50K. Or you can be like, look, the business is at 40K a month right now, especially for senior staff like you. Once we get to 50K, we'll actually have enough budget to get people to raises. And I know you want to get to that 50K next. So once we get to 50K a month, like we will have the budget in order to boost you to there. But in the meantime, I need your help getting there so we both can grow together. I need to see blah, 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 blah out of you. And now you're aligning their personal goals with the company goals. So now they're going to be extremely motivated to make sure the company hits that next income goal, because a byproduct of that is they hit their personal goals, which, obviously is a huge motivation factor. Some people are iffy on that, but personally, I find that works really well for myself. The entire company is just laser focused on what our specific goal is at any single point in time. And every single person knows how they will benefit out of that. And the last thing I want to touch on is doing surveys. So every quarter, you want to send out a survey to all of your students just to get more information as to what you're doing well and what you're doing better. So you can ask questions like, hey, what do you guys like about our classes right now? If there's anything you would change about our classes, what would that be? How do you like our facility right now? Is there anything you'd change about facility? What's one thing that would cause you to never quit? What is one thing that would cause you to quit? And then through those questions, you can find out what people value the most about your school so you know what to double down on. And you can also find out what you need to make sure you avoid, right? To ensure that students never quit. And as long as you're setting these surveys every quarter, you can stay up to date with your students and what they value, and just making sure that you're putting your customers first. You're listening to, all great companies listen to their customers. So you're listening to your customers, you're providing them with the most value possible. You're constantly improving your school. And I'm telling you, this will help your retention so much. Actually, I'll give you guys one last one, just a quick bonus, is retention events. So a lot of people think of events like parents' night outs or like community events as events to get leads and new students, which it can be. But Brandon Beliso, one thing he told me was, no, like they're actually, you want to think of these as retention events. So you can have specific events like that in your school that's just for students. I mean, they can invite friends, that's cool too. But you want to do community building events at your school to build the culture, right? So maybe it's a monthly parents' night out where it's like $10, $20 each student, or maybe you do it free. Kids can all hang out together, and then parents, maybe like you even organize an activity together. Like I know at martial arts school, when I was a kid, I remember all the parents would go out together to like comedy clubs or nice restaurants while all of us kids would like watch movies or hang out at the dojang. So you can organize things like that as well. Or maybe every quarter or whatever, you do a cool community event, like a spring event, or you guys do like a cool like beach testing day. I don't know, but like just thinking of really cool community events that you can do at the school to build that culture so everyone builds those relationships together, because relationships is what we're after. People will give up on a transactional membership, but people don't just quit on relationships easily. So when you build those relationships with yourself and all of your members along with the families together, you build a really strong culture, and that will really help you improve your retention. So those are the main tips I'd recommend for improving your retention in 2025. And honestly, I think these things are pretty timeless strategies you can implement. Really hope you guys got a lot of value from today. Remember, I want you guys to keep focusing on trying to get as many new students as possible. You want to make this stuff even more of a focus. Like if you really lock in for 3 to 6 months and you just spend an insane amount of time and energy on improving your retention and building a great foundation with your business where you have consistent 2 to 3% churn rates, I'm telling you, it's gonna be so easy for you to scale over time. This is the hardest part of this business model that majority of martial arts schools struggle with. And remember, it's not gonna improve unless you measure it. So please, through your membership CRMs, have a spreadsheet somewhere, even put in a notes app on your phone. Every month, right, here's how many students I have, here's how many new students I got, here's how many quit, here's my churn rate, here's my net. And you wanna track that churn rate. That's the key. Track that churn rate every single month. And as you implement these things, see how it improves your churn rate over time so you know what is making the biggest impact in your school. Again, thanks again for watching today's video. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.